Hi, everybody. Good afternoon and welcome to the second in the series of webinars run and hosted by the awesome company Bayut called The State of Real Estate. And today on this episode, we'll be joined by Haider Khan, the CEO of Bayut. We also have some special guests joining us too. We will have Waind, who's the Managing Director of Betterhomes. We'll have Luke Remington, who's the Managing Director of Haus. And we'll also have Neema Kataria, who's the managing partner of Hunt & Harris. So we've got three great guests on the show this afternoon. But as always, I want to make sure we start by talking to Haider, find out what's going on from his point of view and his perspective. So why don't we just get started? Haider, why don't you come and join us?
Hi, good afternoon, Spencer. How are you?
Good afternoon, sir. How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good. The last webinar that we did was really well received by everybody. I see that there's been lots of great feedback and lots of interaction as well. So a great start to try to bring as much value to the marketplace as possible and give people a better understanding of what's going on from your perspective and also from these brokers' perspectives too.
Sure.
Quite a few things to talk about today. I want to get kind of like just get straight started into kind of things that are going on in my mind that I've been thinking about, some questions maybe I can ask you on behalf of everybody. And I want to talk about digital really to start with. So maybe you can give me a bit more of an insight into, the importance of digital at a time like this.
Good morning to good afternoon to everybody, and thank you for attending. Look, I think just coming straight to the question around digital, I think digital has been relevant for the past couple of decades. You go all the way back into the late 90s when it really started to pick up. And with every passing year, every passing decade, it's become more and more relevant. And especially in times like these, where obviously a lot of us are just tied to our homes. Whatever we're doing is based around digital, just like we were chatting. Even when people are connecting with families, you're having these social rooms around people coming together, and families different parts of the world. Even if you're in the same city today, that living room has become kind of a digital living room. So I think it's very relevant. Now, if we bring it over to the business, our industry, if you just look at the portals, they stem from the days of the newspaper classifieds, then into the digital era. So that transformation started a while ago. And as more and more people shift to digital, the younger generation obviously is growing up in the digital age. You're going to see more of an influx of people coming to digital. There's more data, there's more understanding of what people are doing on digital, and it just becomes a very, very powerful tool in terms of marketing your product and your brand.
Yeah, it's been interesting to see just in my lifetime, because I'm that guy that used to buy that golf news that was that thick, with that much news in it and that much real estate advertising and classifieds in there and stuff like that. And I remember having to lug it around with me whenever I was wanting to have a read of the newspaper, to see so much go on to digital, that it was so much easier for us, wasn't it? Once the opportunities came, and whether it was property portals or any other type of format, being able to consume content in a way that was just easier for us, and it became part of our everyday life. And I know there'll be people out there that don't even remember that there were newspapers that were used back then. They think it was mad to think that we were advertising through that medium.
Yeah, absolutely. Just imagine our children. Imagine the new generation that's growing up. A lot of newspapers in the if you look at the West, and if you see them as kind of the leads in this transformation of digital world, a lot of the newspapers, unfortunately, while they provide relevant and good information, have gone out of business because nobody's willing to pay for newspaper subscription. Everything is digital, and there's just so many outlets. So we live in a very, very digital world, and also it reduces these long distances. It brings everybody together, and you're instantly connected. It doesn't really matter what part of the world you're in. You can go read up on news about anywhere and everywhere. And that's why we're so well informed of, even when it comes to this pandemic, what's happening around us everywhere in the world. Because we can just go read up all of the countries and absorb all of that data and understand, even predict and kind of try to model when we might be coming out of it based on what others are doing.
Talk to me a bit more about how you market yourself as a business in this age, because I think that I think that from one perspective, as a lot of us see you as the place we go to find that information out about properties and whatnot. But how does Bayut as a business market its brand and market its business?
Sure. So I think before we go there, I think it's very important to understand the place that we live in, and you have to understand the audience. You have to understand the people that you're marketing to. So if we take UAE as a country, I think it's a well-known fact. Everybody knows this. That roughly 90% of the population is an expat population, and I, for one, haven't found any other place which kind of matches this dynamic. So if we just look at this, a lot of us have come from different parts of the world, and we're in this melting pot together, and so the journey kind of begins all over the world for people who come to this part of the world. Okay, so it's not, it's very different. Now, when these people come from different parts of the world, they move over here. They help build the economy. They're going to get jobs. But some people, after a while, also leave. Okay, and then they're replaced by new ones. Now, the overall population is increasing, but people do come and leave. So I think if you just look at it from, and this is how I see it. If you look at it from any brand's perspective who's operating over here, you're going to have a bit of a brand illusion, because people who were used to you and you are a local brand, once they go back to their country, they don't need to use you. But new people have come. Okay, so it's really important to understand for all digital marketers out there the life cycle or the life journey, the journey of an end user. Okay, where does it start? Where does it go? What are they doing when they're here, and where does it end as far as you are concerned as a business, and how can you keep adding value? So this was very interesting for me because I moved here from the States, and you have a larger population that's very that's just there. I was in Texas, and then I met some people who had never left the state of Texas, believe it or not, and I'm talking about people who were in their 50s and never left the state of Texas. So you see, there's a different dynamic at play, and so you have to address the problem. You have to first understand. You have to understand what are you trying to market to, who you're trying to market to, and then build a plan around that. So a very simple question to you, for example, right, is if you think about it, if somebody is moving, let's say from the UK, and a lot of us understand the appeal of Dubai, and it's really fantastic from the angle of it's tax-free. There's plenty of sun. People have different reasons. There's opportunities. It's the equivalent of the American dream, right? It's you come here, you build a life. What are you going to look for? The very first thing you're going to look for if you want to come to Dubai, if you've heard of Dubai on the news, or if you want to come to the UAE, what are you going to look for? Right? Is a house the first thing you're going to look for, or is a job the first thing you're going to look for?
Yeah, you're going to be looking for, ideally, you're going to be looking for a job, okay? Try and find yourself, that kind of thing. I mean, crazily, people do it in different ways, but I think that the first thing you do is try and find yourself a job, okay? If you can find yourself a job, then you can find yourself somewhere to live once you've found yourself a job. I think that typically the behavior that people would have. Yeah,
so exactly, right? So because you need an income to be able to do other things. Okay, and so and now I'm talking from Bayut's perspective, how we think of the digital world out there. It's a huge digital world, right? But you really have to understand the user. Okay, we're a B2B service. Okay, so a business to business service. We service the brokerages and we help them generate leads. But our focus for the last, at least for the last 6.5 years that I've been here, is always on the customer's customer. It's really on that end user, because those are the people who actually will generate the leads, will go for the viewings, will do the transactions. And if they're satisfied, we as an industry are satisfied. So now going back, it's very important to understand those people, where they come from, and where does the journey start. Okay. If we look at us as a portal, and I would ask, general advice to every business is to ask yourself the question of when are you relevant, how long are you relevant for the end user. If we look at our business, if I just even look at myself, I rent, so I have moved every couple of years, every 2 years, maybe 2 to 3 years. And so if you're in the rental space and you're renting the property, you're going to rent a property, and then you're probably going to forget about it for the next 2 years. If you're buying a property, you're going to live in it on average, 4 to 5, maybe up to 6, 7 years. So as far as the portal is concerned, our relevance is today, now, when people will need to move and they'll come find us, and then maybe 2 years out, maybe 5 years out, it's way out. But so that's us as a business. But now if you start thinking about the user's journey, right, which is starting off for most of us in a different country in the world, and then you're looking for a job and you try to learn more about the area, it's very important to make sure that you can be part of that journey. And so for us at Bayut, we've always focused on how can we become relevant in the very first instance of somebody starts thinking of wanting to move to Dubai or the UAE. And then when they come over here, part of the journey of the user is then to find a house. And then when they find a house, then how do we stay relevant? They look for a house again. It's very, you would have a very myopic and short-term view if you just think that I can just service the user with the need that they have and then forget about it, forget about them. So about, I would say roughly about 3.5, 4 years ago, we said we need to have a very deep content strategy because we want to be part of their journey, okay? And we want to be part of the entire journey. There's a concept which is called lifetime value or customer lifetime value, which is used by a lot of businesses in trying to understand how much value can they get from a customer. But the key to that is that you're part of that lifetime. You're not just part of that one instance where they need you. And so a lot of our focus, so we have invested a lot in our content strategy to have as many touch points as we can with the end users, and stay relevant the moment they start thinking about moving to the country, and then stay relevant when they are looking for more information about the different areas in Dubai or Abu Dhabi or Sharjah, and then that's why we have the guides, and then stay relevant when they start looking for property, because that's what we do. And then they stay relevant after they've rented or bought a property, and then stay relevant till, have all of those touch points till they come back into the market and start looking again. This is the
getting exposure in every step of the way.
Sorry?
So getting into their mind and getting exposure on kind of like every step of the way. So when the guy's looking for a job and he's going to the job sites, okay, trying to be relevant from the time that he starts thinking about it in his mind from that moment onwards.
You really have to. There was, when I was working in the US, we used to have this saying which said, "Out of sight, out of mind." Okay, and that's just, even in an organization, if you don't see some people very frequently, you forget about them. And not that you don't care, you just forget. You just, they're not there. So the real question in this digital space is, how do you stay relevant? Okay, and stay relevant throughout whatever their journey is in the UAE. That's our mission, is to stay relevant all along. Okay, because if we really talk about from a marketing, for those of you who are from the marketing field, if we talk about a marketing funnel, and picture a funnel in your head, top of the funnel for a property portal would be somebody who's looking for apartments in UAE, and the bottom of the funnel would be a very specific search. For example, I want to rent an apartment in, Princess Tower. One-bedroom apartment in Princess Tower is, and you're that much closer to actually generating a lead because you exactly know that you want to live there. There's a lot of steps even between that to figure out all the different areas. But prior to that, even before you come to that conclusion that you actually want to rent something here, there's a lot that's happening. So we focus a lot on that. So as I said, about 3-4 years ago, we put a very deep content strategy in place, whether it was written content discoverable, through Google, or videos through YouTube, Facebook, and with the idea that we absolutely want to stay relevant. And just to give you a small anecdotal point over here, in the last 30 days, we have had about 1.7 million unique visitors to the website.
1.7 unique visitors to the website in the last 30 days, yeah?
Right. And out of that, roughly 80% are from the UAE alone. Okay, so if you look at a number of 1.3 million out of a population of 9 million, and these are uniques, we touch a lot of lives, and that's how big our footprint is, and we can talk to them at different points. Now, are all of them looking for a house right now? No, they're not, right? Will all of them be looking for a house at some point? Yes, because everybody needs a roof. And so the real question is, how relevant are you, and how top of mind are you during this journey? And so we have a platform which speaks to these people. They can come to our platform, and they know, we generate a lot of content which is related to property, so we rank really, really well for that. But we also generate a lot of content which is just helping them with their daily lives. So I can go on and on for hours on this one, but just trying to paint a picture of, you kind of have to think from a 360-degree angle and not take a very kind of narrow view on marketing generally. That would be my advice for people out there.
That number staggers me, because if you take into consideration the fact there's children living here as well, and kids and students and stuff that aren't necessarily relevant in this particular time, that's a really big percentage of the actual working population.
Yeah, and I think that's where, what I said was we kind of took a holistic content strategy as opposed to just property, right? So if you look at the overall digital landscape, and I'm going to limit my hands to the screen that I see because otherwise I would put it up here. Real estate specifically is about probably this much, okay? The rest of it is general everyday life. So, and this is what people go through every day. You obviously have to service this. We do service this. We are at the end of the day a property portal, but you have to service everything and touch all of those people. And it gives you a platform to send messages, to engage them. When they land, whether it's on our blog or on our guides, it's an opportunity for us to speak to them and guide them in the right direction. Yeah, so, we take a very, very broad, and so I guess the question is, how is it helpful for our customers?
Yeah.
And the way I would look at this is because we talk to such a large audience, because we keep them captivated and engaged, they enter our funnel way before even they start thinking about a property. Okay. They enter our funnel, our marketing funnel, early on, very early on, when they even start thinking about moving to this place. And we eventually, and we track all of this, we eventually guide them to the properties for sale or properties for rent section. So, and what's there? It's all of the ads or the listings that are provided by our partners. So, and that gives them that exposure. So, as I said, it's a very you need a strong vision and execution on this, which is not very short term. You have to think 5 years, 10 years out. And since we live in a situation, we live in a country that's unique in its demographic and dynamic, the solution also needs to be very unique, equally interesting for this place.
That's fascinating. Talk to me a little bit about how lead attribution works.
Sure. I think it's a very simple concept. And I touched upon this slightly in my previous talk last week, which was, for any business, you really have to understand where is the business coming from. It's as simple as that. Right? Because if you don't, you'll spend money on the wrong thing, most likely. We spend a lot in terms of digital marketing on different platforms. I mean, you have Google, you have Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Twitter. Some of them are way bigger over here, more relevant than others. But we can track it down to literally the ad that was clicked and understand what is that person or user doing and how many leads are they generating. And only in then identifying those kind of behaviors and further amplifying that kind of an audience can we really understand that we're spending our money the right way. And so this is why I think for any business out there, whether they're in our industry or any other industry, it's very, very important for you to track lead attribution very closely. Let me give you a simple example. When I moved here 6.5 years ago, I went to, I think it was a showroom, and I walked over there and so I talked to the guy, and I asked about something about a car, and then they started filling out the regular CRM. And one of the questions was, where did you hear about us? The person didn't ask me. The person did not ask me where did I hear about them, and just typed in something. So again, this points to the fact that whoever's going to look at that data is going to assume something based on that data, which is probably not correct, right? So so it's very important to understand these concepts, because once you do, then you should absolutely spend money where value is coming in from, and and not somewhere else.
You're an expert in this, and it's clearly something you're very passionate about, because I've talked to you about it from time to time over the last few months, and it's nice to be able to get that explanation from you so that we can really understand it. Because I think a lot of the time, maybe brokers just worry about their leads, but if they understand better the journey and what's involved in the journey, it might be better for them to get a clearer picture of what goes on and how it's valuable to them, not just now but longer term as well, because that continuous flow of leads is really important. So for you, having that longer term view and that longer term picture, okay, must make it much better. Look, the coronavirus is something that's impacting a lot of people, a lot of companies. How are you guys dealing with it at the moment? How is it impacting you, and what kind of decisions are you having to make at the moment?
We all are equally impacted, right? We came out a couple of weeks ago and we said, we're going to waive the fees for the month of April, and then we went even further ahead and announced discounts for the following months. So obviously, when there's no revenue coming in, we still have bills to pay. We still have, we still have our own people, but this was never, from our perspective, from my perspective, what we're doing was never about a month, 2 months, or 3 months. It was a plan that was put in place with a much longer term horizon. So while we stay strong through it, everybody at Bayut is intact. We as an organization are intact. Everybody's there. We're supporting our people, and we continue that, and we are doing everything that we can to support the industry. These are challenging times, certainly challenging times. But as I said, our vision, our goal is not 2 months forward, 3 months forward. We're looking, we have a 5-year plan, 10-year plan. And that's how we're looking at it as an organization. And we have full intention of coming out of this intact and much stronger.
I love the way you refer to the brokerage businesses as your partners, and the sincerity that comes with it. I mean, this is my observation. I'm not the industry guy, but I talk to a lot of the industry. But that feeling that you're in it together is, for me, gives me a real kind of feeling of that kind of like, look, let's all roll our sleeves up together. We feel you, we get you, we understand you, and we're with you.
Yeah, it is, as I've talked about this before also, we are one part of the journey. We capture the user when they start thinking about moving to Dubai. We generate the lead, we pass it on to our partners. They close the job. They are the closers. And who would know this better than you, and you're from sales? These people are the closers. They are the ones who actually make the transactions happen. And those transactions generate revenue for everyone. They generate revenue for the brokers, they generate which they spend on us and other service providers. So you see, if you take a very, if you just look at it yourself as in an isolated way, or kind of a narrow view of the overall equation, it will fall apart very quickly. And that's why I've always said this. In the last, you can pick up any of the earlier talks, and you can see that I've always referred to them as partners, because we truly are. We are. We're locked. So we exist to service the industry, and we all have to. And part of the message, which was come out of this strong, come out of this intact. And I genuinely want I really want the entire industry to come out of this intact. And whether it's that one broker, one person brokerage or hundreds of brokers, this is the time to come together. This is time to unite and save our family, and service our industry, so we all can prosper in the future. This is our house. We take care of it.
It's really nice that you put it that way. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the guys? Any other thoughts that you've been having recently? Anything that's on your mind that really you'd like to get out there and make sure everyone's aware of that you haven't already touched upon today?
I think if we, because the topic was on digital, so I'll just say a couple of things, and then I think there's.
Oh, hold on, there was awards, wasn't there? Do you want to just remind me of those?
Sorry, which ones?
The Google Awards. There was some awards.
Yeah, so let me cover this. So I'll talk a little bit about the digital, and then I think there's a lot of we have some very knowledgeable panelists, and I'll hand it over to them. But what I want people to take away is that the digital landscape is very vast. Okay, there's trillions of websites. I mean, literally, just think about the amount of content that's out there. And it's a sea of people who are connected in this digital space with these digital identities. There's a lot of information flowing through, and you have to capture that, and you have to make sense of that, and you have to identify and grab the right audience and bring them onto your platform, keep them engaged, and provide value to them and provide value to people on the other side, which are brokers. That is our goal. Now, we use, as I said, we use Google, we use Facebook, we use all the digital platforms. I mean, and for us, as I said, because we look at attribution very closely in terms of what performance ROI we get, we tend to spend more on areas where we get more value from, and that's just a very simple business rule. Now, and so you kind of have to have a 360 view of the world. You also have to have a very broad understanding of this digital world. If we start talking about Facebook or Google in its individual capacity, even on Facebook, there's organic Facebook reach, there's paid sponsored Facebook. Google, there's same thing, and all of these platforms you typically have organic reach as well as paid reach. And if we start talking about one thing here, there, that's not the complete picture. The complete picture is who is the user, how do you capture them, and all of us will touch Google, will touch Facebook, will touch Instagram. Although my kids touch it a lot more than I actually have no clue on Instagram. But I don't even know which way to swipe.
I have tried to find you.
I do know you have to swipe, but that's about it. I usually just swipe it up to get rid of it. But the thing is, the point, I think the important point is these people are touching all of these. And do you really understand this from that perspective? And are you omnipresent? Omnipresent. Are you everywhere? You have to be everywhere. You have to talk to these people. You have to engage with them, and you have to provide them value with something that actually helps solve them, so they come back to you. And if you take a view of, oh, okay, I get this guy, he generates some leads, well, adios, see you later in 2 years or 5 years time, then I think that for any business, that's a very myopic and short-sighted view. That's not a long-term digital strategy in play. And I think I would much rather go with a much longer vision and view of things. And it's hard to execute. It's not easy. It's day in. You have to bite off a little bit and build on that. So we've been doing it for the last 4 or 5 years, and then that's why we can reach. We have such a large reach. This is generally to marketers out there, to people, and to our clients, to our partners. Understand the value of this footprint, because this is all done for your benefit. Because the reason we've been able to grow so fast is because we've taken this broader view. And we get a lot of engagement. We have the most traffic because we are able to get people on board, and we look at our funnels and see how people go through their journey and when do they convert. So it's very important. And I think for everybody out there, if you're thinking about it, think about it from a broader perspective as opposed to kind of these narrow perspectives or individualistic kind of siloed perspectives. And other than that, you know, I hope everybody is doing well, and you know, you're at home with your loved ones. It's been in a way, it's, you know, it's been personally, at a personal front, being able to sit with the kids, play some board games, you know, that's been very refreshing, and I think it creates this new bond. So, or it revives this bond, which in this digital age can really consume you, and it's good to get away from digital for a bit as well. So, you know, and live real life as well. So, but that's about it. So thank you to everyone for attending, and I pass it back to you, Seth. And thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Mate, I love talking to you. You're a fascinating chap. I always learn something when I sit and listen to what you've got to say. You've definitely, over the course of the last 12 months, schooled me on many things, and I think what you say is really valid. So I appreciate you coming and spending some of your time and just educating people really on stuff that they probably should know, but sometimes maybe out of sight, out of mind goes with them as well, and stuff they don't think about as often as they could. Really appreciate it. Let me get on to the other guests, but thanks very much for joining us today. Haider Khan, CEO of Bayut.
Thank you so much, Spencer. Have a wonderful day. All right.
Yeah, and you, yes, have a great day yourself. Okay, moving on. Okay, guys, hopefully you enjoyed that. Okay, if you've got questions for Haider, then I'm sure if you send them in, we'll do our best to get them all answered for you. This here is a forum so that we can really give you some reassurance as to what's going on out there, get some experts in to share their knowledge and experience, and make sure that you, okay, all of you out there are better educated and are clearer and are gaining some confidence really as to the likely outcome of what's going to happen over the course of the oncoming weeks and months, and how we can really lean into it and take advantage of opportunities that exist. Right, let's get our next guest into the webinar. Okay, we have three business leaders for you. And first of all, we'll start off with Rick Waind, who's the Managing Director of Betterhomes. So welcome, Rick. Come on in and join us. We've got Luke Remington, who's the Managing Director of Haus and Haus. And then we have Neema Kataria, who is the Managing Partner of Hunt and Harris. So three great people coming in to join us today. Okay, please come in and say hi. I've got 1,001 questions to ask you all, guys. And so I'm going to be throwing it at you. How are we doing, guys? Nice to see you. Say hi.
Hi.
Excellent stuff. Right, just a quick one. Okay, when I ask a question, please let somebody finish so that then it doesn't, because if everyone talks at the same time, you can't always hear each other. But I'll throw some questions at you. I've got a bunch of questions coming in. Let me just check here what we've got coming through. Okay, a bunch of questions coming in, and so we'll make sure that we answer as many of those as possible. But it's definitely, Rick, I'll start with you. Interesting times.
Yeah, that's the word that's been thrown around, isn't it? Interesting times. Probably times most of us didn't think we would be living through, quite like this, stuck in our houses for so long. But times we've got to get through, Spence. Times we're going to have to learn to get through in the short term. Learn to make the most of this new normal, and start thinking about how we're going to come out of this stronger, and use this time to actually put some things in place to come out of it stronger. Because it is interesting. I mean, let's be honest, it's difficult, it's challenging times as well. But there will be opportunities in this. There will be opportunities for everyone on this call as well.
Luke, I've really not got to know you very well over recent times, so I'm glad I get a chance to talk to you and get to know you a little bit today, and we did yesterday as well. I was really impressed by your kind of like your chipper approach yesterday. You kind of positive, okay, looking at the opportunities, but also having a few successes in recent times. Let me ask you some questions that I'm sure are on the lips of a lot of people. How is it best that we conduct viewings at the moment? What do we do to conduct viewings when we've got all these restrictions in place?
Well, it's difficult, right? Because we have to abide by the rules and regulations that are out there, and we have to, think about others in the community or the city, and we don't want to kind of add to the curve. We want to flatten the curve. So the fact of viewings, they shouldn't actually be taking place as far as I'm concerned. It's not an essential business. We're not medical. So other than going to the shops to pick up your groceries, or maybe going to walk your dog, which is maybe necessity or not, viewing shouldn't. So you're down to your video tours. You're engaging with your clients the best you can. So I think that the ones that were a step ahead of the curve before the lockdown happened, before this 24 hours came in, the ones that went out there, took some video tours of their properties, maybe did some 3D floor plans. You know, Bayut have been great and assisted us massively on those 3D floor plans. Those are the ones that are ahead, you know, so to communicate, these videos tell a story, and you can pass them to your buyers, your tenants. You can then hopefully get an offer out of it, and then if you can muster up an offer and a contract, then you can maybe have some clauses in there that allows you to either get out after the lockdown's finished and we can actually do a physical viewing. But, you know, we just got to deal with the times and, you know, the cards we're given, and we just got to do it virtually as much as we can.
It's where, what did you say yesterday, where the strong are made? What was it, something like that you said?
Sorry?
I can't remember. Is it where times like this where the strong, where the real men are made, or something like that?
Well, it is where the champions are made, right? You know, I do a lot of sporting events, Spencer, and you know, you want to go running at midday, right? You want to go when it's hot, because then when you get to the race, it's going to be easier. And this is what I do feel. If we as brokers or brokerages can look at this and think, right, we're in a difficult time, but let's call it a training period. So all the training that we couldn't do when, you know, this whole kind of busyness was going on, January was bouncing, February was bouncing, you know, pretty much it was changing day by day. In March, we were still kicking our heels around kind of mid-March. Things were great. So if we can look at this period now and, I don't know, get on some Zoom calls to our colleagues and do some role plays, subscribe to your Instagram and have coffee with you in the morning and do some sales kind of training. But this is what it allows us to do this now. This is what we should be doing as brokers, as leaders, you know, encouraging everyone to get out there and get knowledge.
Makes a lot of sense. Neema, let's talk about leads. At the moment, okay, there's been less leads, but I've been reliably informed in the marketplace that less leads. However, if people are genuinely inquiring and interested right now, they're going to be hot leads. Would you agree with that?
We're in a little bit of a different position being in Ras Al Khaimah. To be very honest with you, our lead volume hasn't come down, touch wood, so far. And yes, I definitely feel that the leads that are coming in are very, very strong. They're people that are definitely active and want to buy. Same with rentals, it's people that really need to move immediately. So we're still servicing our clients, and we've been quite fortunate. We've actually managed to close some transactions over the last couple of days. So it's been positive on the Ras Al Khaimah front.
Okay.
Sorry, just on the leads things, perhaps more of what we're experiencing in Dubai. Obviously, we're a little bit more locked down than you are up in Ras Al Khaimah. The lead numbers dropped, but I think, Luke, I'd be interested in what you think as well, but what we're seeing on the leads, it's kind of yin or yang. You do have people who need to move. You've got a few people out there who, you know, want to take this opportunity and need to move, and they're good leads. You also, though, have a number of leads coming through at the moment that are very speculative. There are a lot of people at home at the moment, they're online at the moment, they're seeing properties, and they're speculative leads. You know, they're not necessarily leads for today, but they are leads for tomorrow, because the timeline of somebody's move has never been as long as it is today in the market before all this happened. So there will be people that will come into your business during this time, and the job then is just to keep in touch with them, make sure you build a relationship over a period of time. So frankly, you know, I agree with Lou, there's good time now to do some training, but there's also a great time now to do some relationship building with people, because people have got time to talk.
Yeah, good. So I expect you to give me a call after this then, Rick, yeah?
It's not really the other way around, Spence.
Hey, Luke, talk to me about the 5% increase. Okay, we're now at 80% loan to value ratio as opposed to 75%. Secondary market for first time buyers. That's got to be really appealing, right? Hasn't it?
Massively positive, right? You know, I think there's two sides to that spectrum. The first, it opens up the pool, right? We've got a larger amount of buyers now that can get out there. You've got maybe the first buyers that were on the fringe of, you know, getting a deposit or weren't. They're sitting on the fence. I think it's going to certainly whet their appetite, and that's the start of the journey. The first time buyers are the ones you want, right? The ones that come out of rented accommodation and kickstart the market. But I'd say most importantly for me, it's that confidence shown by the central bank to actually start financing more. So it was never going to come out to the whole market, okay, we're going to start doing 80% or 85% to the whole market. It was going to come out in drips and drabs. So for them to do it, you know, in March, April time, I think for me was the confidence to say, okay, right, we believe we're getting to the bottom of the other curve. So not the pandemic curve, but the price curve. You know, we discussed about it yesterday. Prices are at a low. That kind of cost per square foot, and you know the developer cost to actually build it. So for me, it's a confidence the central bank to release it, because I do think we'll see some more products, and we've seen some great products, but we'll see some more products, and hopefully we'll see more, maybe 80–85% for the rest of the markets, kind of a stimulus to kick things back up.
Yeah, that would be fantastic if that happened, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Listening just now, Rick, I was just listening to Haider talk, and I love the way that he refers to you guys as partners. For me, that kind of that means a lot to me. What kind of reassurance does it give to somebody like you running an organization like that, knowing that, you know, you've got these guys, that have got your back, type of thing?
Yeah, it's important, Spence. I think in these times, in these markets, I think it's important we've all got each other's backs. And what we've seen probably in the last 2 or 3 weeks is something we've not really seen before, which is the industry coming together, both from, you know, suppliers' point of view, and that's Bayut and others, and within the industry. You know, I've probably had more conversations with other managing directors, business owners in the last 2 or 3 weeks than we've had in the last 3 or 4 years, and I think that is positive. And I think I think there are silver linings to come out of this, but one of the silver linings to come out of this is I would hope that we continue with that coming together across the industry, working closer with each other, and we can use some of that momentum to actually deliver, you know, better service, better quality within the buy property market as we go forward. So I think that is a positive. Long may it continue. You know, certainly myself and Luke and Neema and others are all talking, and I think that's really positive.
You think about that, it's like when everyone communicates with each other, Neema, it's almost like you have a chance to bring the standards up, don't you? You have a chance to be able to not necessarily, I mean, I say this loosely, but not necessarily be at war with each other, as some brokers seem to be, and, you know, open that line of communication up to be supportive around, I don't know, things like recruitment and, you know, various deals and transactions that might take place. Do you feel that,
100%.
Neema?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, sometimes it's just about sharing ideas in terms of, oh, how do you do this structure? Or what are you finding with, you know, certain recruitment avenues? Sometimes it's just getting that feedback from what other people are going through to try and change your own processes or improve, or like you said, deliver a better service to your clients. So 100%. I think this has really made the communication channels much better between the different agencies.
I think So I was going to say, things are changing so quickly. Things are changing day to day. RERA processes, DLD process, getting transfers through. And, you know, I think, to be fair to the DLD, they're working very, very hard to put processes in place as quickly as they possibly can. But what we are seeing is, amongst the brokerage community, there's a lot of conversations between us about, you know, how do you do this? What's happening here? And it's actually that helping with each other, which I've never experienced before. Certainly, you know, between brokerages. And I think, you know, as Neema says, that's quite unique for this time, and I think bodes well if we can continue it, if we can keep it going.
Luke, are there unavoidable situations right now with people that are coming to the end, I don't know, maybe of a rental term, and they really have to get out of that property, and they found another property, and that property is whatever the value is, the price is, doesn't matter, but they have to get out? Are there unavoidable situations like that where people are having to use or agents are having to use the permit process to be able to facilitate any of that?
Yeah, it's definitely going on, right? Transactions are happening. You know, transactions at sales and leases are happening. Look, you've got to understand, or a landlord's got to understand, you know, there's different things that are going off and different articles. And, you know, I've heard recently it's not a pandemic, it's a media-demic. So, you know, you've got a certain newspaper or certain news article that will say landlords giving cheaper rent. And then you've got all the tenants in Dubai then phoning up the landlords and give me cheaper rent. The ones that are coming to the end of it, I'm seeing, you know, are negotiating a 1 month, 2 month, 3 month. You can't measure the rope. You know, we don't know where the end is, do we? So you know, they're just day to day. Things are changing. I think there's some green, you know, there's some shoots out there. We're seeing that things are happening around the rest of the world, where maybe the shops are now opening in Italy, or there's cases going down over here or there. But yeah, I think there's landlords are being a bit more. Everyone's understanding, right? It's the same as what Rick and Neema have said on brokerages. We're all getting together. I think you're probably finding a landlord and tenant are getting together now. They're not at each other's throat. We want more rent, we want less rent. I think the whole world is getting together, right? We're spending more time with our families. We're communicating more. So there's definitely going to be positives outside of the business side, between tenants, landlords, buyers, and sellers.
Rick and Luke, you've got sizable teams. Neema's, your team's a little bit smaller, but Rick, let me ask you the question. You've got agents that with their families, like Luke say, are getting the opportunity to spend a bit of time, but you've also got agents that are sat there on their own in a one-bedroom apartment or a studio apartment on their own. What kind of duty of care do you have as a business to try and consider their well-being, their mental state, and their engagement, I suppose, as well?
Well, I mean, look, any business is the sum of its people, and how strong your people are and how well we look after our people is how strong the business is going to be. And we need to come out of this with a strong team, because I think there will be real opportunities on the back end of this. But what we've tried to do, because you're absolutely right, some people are at home with families, and that has its challenges. Trying to work with toddlers in the house, as I'm trying to find out for myself and trying to homeschool them, as some of my friends and colleagues are trying to do, is interesting, shall we say the least. But I agree with you. That's one challenge. But to be at home in a studio flat on your own somewhere for an extended period of time is very, very difficult. I mean, what we've tried to do is we try to put into place some things. So we have a wellness committee. We do an 8 AM session online every day. Slightly embarrassingly, Sunday morning at 8 AM is Joe at Rick's fitness class. So that is me in my lycra for about 25 minutes every Sunday morning spent, so you can come and join us. And then we do, I think it's yoga on a Thursday, and then there's a book club, and then we've got a couple of things that like challenges each week for kids, for the staff kids that they can do. So look, we're trying. I think everybody's probably doing very similar things. And what we try and do is encourage our people to get involved, but then people have got a little bit more time on their hands today than to reach out. And we live, if this had happened 10 years ago, or 15 years ago, I think it would be in a very, very different situation and a very concerning situation for people's well-being and mental health. And I'm not saying it isn't today, and I'm sure there's going to be, people that really need help off the back of this. But we can do these things. We can have 700-800 people on a call now, all discussing things that makes you feel part of something. We can reach out to our parents across the world. We can reach out to our friends across the world. So, I think we're all doing that more than we've ever done before. And long may it continue. But I think from a company's point of view, it is incumbent on the company to make sure that you're doing what you can to look after the team at the moment. Certainly.
Good. Okay. A question for Luke and for Neema on this one. Neema, I'll go with you first. Okay, from the questions that are coming in. What advice would you give to agencies who do not want to invest in their business now and they want to wait until the corona situation is over? What should they be doing?
Look, for me, that's a really difficult question to answer, because some business owners may not be in a position to be able to spend money. When your cash flow is drying up, with transactions being put on hold, no rentals taking place, transfers not being able to take place at the land department, or going through very, very slowly, you may not be able to maintain your spend level. So I think it really depends on the situation that business is in. I think my answer to that question is if you're in an able position to be able to spend, then I would continue spending. I don't think now is the right time to cut spending on portal spend, Property Finder, Bayut, Jabizzle. For me, it's not the right time to be cutting spending there, because if you're maintaining the lead flow, you're keeping your staff happy, and you're going to have a pipeline in place once we come out of this. But if you're stopping that marketing or the other things that you're spending on, then again, you're starting from scratch come 2-3 months time when we come out of this.
Okay, Luke?
Yeah, I think Henry Ford once said, a man who stops marketing to save money is like a man that stops the clock to save time, right? I think it's a fundamental time at the moment to, continue your marketing, But it's not just your current leads that you need to focus on, right? And that's what surprises me at the moment, that the leads are still coming through. And like Rick touched on, we got the people that sat at home probably, not speaking to one another because they've never had 2 weeks together in the past and they're at each other's throats. So what do? We go online and we maybe browse our new house and maybe think about getting a private pool or a study room because we're now going to work from home. But don't just concentrate on the leads that you have now. A lot of the big brokerages, they're the ones that have been in the business for a while. We've got these sophisticated CRM systems. You've only got to pull your buyers up on a simple report from January. You would be amazed. You've done it yourself. You look for properties, no one gets in touch with you, no one gets back to you. So there's so many buyers in there or tenants in there. There's so many opportunities now at the moment. And I know some people are probably watching this thinking, well, there isn't, Luke. But yeah, there is. There's lots of opportunities out there. You just got to go and get them. So I would run a report, get all your buyers or even your colleagues that may have left that weren't successful in the business, get their buyers, get their tenants, just give them a call. You've got to call them as a person, okay? And what I mean as a person, you've got to be a person first and then a real estate broker second. So you can't phone them up and they've got other issues, whether it's the mental health issues, whether they've got family members in different parts of the world, people are struggling. So be very diligent about how the conversation goes. Maybe do a role play with your director or your team lead or your colleagues beforehand. But just as they reached out to start with, so reach out now. Find out how they're getting on. Find out how is life, what are they up to. And then, if you need me, where I am, that you're just touching base. I think the amount of people that would actually appreciate that at the moment, I think people would be surprised.
Yeah, interesting. One of my theories around this is that every agent should right now, and every business owner should be making sure that the agent goes through the CRM system they've got and calls everybody. Okay, right. Not to sell anything though. Calls everyone just to say hi. And I think that what you learn in that conversation is two types of people: the people that are in fear, okay, and worried about everything, and then also the people that you'll be talking to that are pragmatic, like you three, pragmatic and optimistic. And there's two categories. And if you can take all the people that are on your CRM, call them all, and then find out the ones that are in fear, find out the ones that are pragmatic. It's the pragmatic ones that are going to be your clients in the oncoming months. Those ones that have already got their sleeves rolled up in the mindset of, look, we just got to get on with this. So I'm just waiting for them to open the doors and let me out again. Do you agree with that, Rick?
Yeah, I'd actually probably have a third in. I think you've got, it's like society. At the moment, you've got group number one who are scared and from a market point of view have run for the hills. But then you have two other categories. You do have people out there at the moment licking their lips thinking, I've got some cash in the bank. Is this my buying opportunity that I've been waiting for a period of time? And that will happen across all markets. It'll happen in equities, it'll happen in property, it'll happen in everything. So those buyers are out there at the moment. They might be waiting to see over the next couple of weeks, but they'll be out there. And then the third category, as you're saying, the practical category, or the wait and see category, as I would put them. That's probably the majority of people who were active in the market prior to this. The majority of people who were active in the market prior to this, and there was a lot of activity prior to this, are just playing a wait and see game. And if this can come to a conclusion in a fairly shortish time, and that may be 2 weeks, it may be 2 months, those are the people that you need to make sure that you have a relationship and you have the stock ready for them when it picks up, because that'll be your business in the second half of this year that could be very, very good, I think.
I think, Spencer, though, going back to the original question, I think a question like that comes from somebody who perhaps doesn't have the CRM or the data that, luckily we've been in the market for a long time. So we've got data, we've got CRMs. What about the people that don't have the CRMs or haven't been in the business for the length of time that the companies that here are? So what would you suggest for them? People that can't afford to continue on the portals, or people that don't have that data to call and touch base with?
It's an interesting question. My belief is that any company that can't afford to spend right now still has data. How they've managed that data, I don't know, but they've been generating leads for a period of time, and those all of those leads that they got didn't turn into clients initially, and that means they've got data on a CRM, names and numbers of people that they can all reach out to and talk to. And like Luke said, sorry, how you engage with them as a human being, have a chat with them, find out how they're feeling, talk about the subject of the day, talk about Corona, because that's what's on everyone's lips. See how they're feeling about it, and then you'll be able to gauge. Rick says 3 categories, whether it's 3, 2, doesn't really matter. Okay, but find out where their state of mind is. Everybody has got data on their CRM. There's been leads that have been generated in the past that haven't been closed, haven't turned into anything. And for me, I'd be on the phone talking to all of those. That's the direction I'd head in, Neema, if I were doing it. Luke, how long do you think the market needs to recover after this is over?
Straight away, once the lockdown finishes, Spencer, things are back. I think things will go back. Look, the airport's shut. There are going to be, probably not as free movement across the world, but there's a glut of people, like we was talking about before, that are sitting on the fence. Just because some people will be a bit negative about life at the moment, it doesn't mean there's not a load of buyers at the moment saying, yeah, well, I'm going to buy now. I see that demand isn't out there, so I haven't got to compete against a load of other buyers or tenants. I can see that interest rates are low. I can see that we're at low prices. So I think they're looking now anyway. And once the restrictions are over, and we can let the brokers go back to viewings, things will start. It's not going to be a month after, 2 months after, 3 months after. Things will start there. The business will go back. There's a lot of people at the moment. We're all a bit more grateful about life at the moment, right? We're thinking about, okay, well, when this is over, I'm going to go to that restaurant, or I'm going to go and see those friends and family. And there's going to be people saying, I'm going to look at that house. So that's the way I'm looking at it. That's the way our team's looking at it. People are going to start looking straight away.
Well, the divorce lawyers will be involved anyway, because people need a second home so they can move into it. So
there's definitely a lot of that, yeah. There's definitely going to be the people upsizing because the baby's going to be due in 10 months' time, or the divorce lawyer. So it's which one?
That is, yeah. I think sorry, Spencer.
Go ahead.
I just to jump on the back of it. I think rentals in particular will bounce back very, very quickly, because you've got people who's coming to a natural end of their tenancy. Some of them will have agreed a 1 month, 2 month extension with their landlord to get them through this. There'll be people in flats today looking out their balcony at their neighbours downstairs in villas thinking, I want that because I don't want to be stuck in a flat again for this period of time. So I think rentals will bounce back incredibly quickly. And the rental agents on the call should be prepping for that. And the best way to prep for it is get your listings up, really. But sales could be a slightly different proposition off the back of this. It could be. I think we need to address that. The sales market, employment will play a factor in it. So the longer this goes on for, the more impact that will have. I agree with Luke. I think post-corona, there will be a worldwide desire to get out there, to live again, to spend again, to breathe fresh air, to go traveling, to do everything. And I think that will give a real injection into all markets. Okay, but there will also be people who will need to sell, will need to liquidize an asset to put it into their business that's been struggling through that, and that will create opportunities. So do I think the sales market will return immediately to where it was? No. But do I think there will be very good opportunities for good brokers out there during that period? Yeah, absolutely. Because there will be people who need to sell. There will be people who want to take advantage of that, and there'll be a lot of deals to be done. So do I think the market will return? Yes, it will, 100%. May take a little bit of time, but in that time it takes to recover, good brokers will do a lot of business.
There's another thing I think that a lot of people miss, or particularly real estate brokers miss. There's 5 asset classes, and real estate is one of them: fixed income, equities, currencies, and commodities. And those 5 asset classes that exist for investors, and bear in mind, but a 10-year bull run. Okay, so there's people out there, I believe, that have got a lot of money. There's also people that are making a lot of money during this period as well. But there's a lot of people out there that, when it comes to making an investment, would they be comfortable investing in the stock market right now, or maybe the Forex markets? And I think people know less about that than they feel they know about real estate. Because they feel they know less about it, they're less inclined to jump into it. But also the other thing is, if you invest $1 million, okay, in equities, it has to make 100% growth for it to be worth $2 million. Well, if you buy real estate, you buy $1 million property, you're essentially at 80%, potentially putting $200,000 down, and you're leveraging. People don't leverage stocks. They can, but they don't. People don't leverage currencies. They can, but they don't. But people do leverage when they buy property. And so that investment only needs to go up 20% for their investment to be worth 100%. That makes sense. I'm sure it does to all of you. And I think a lot of agents that aren't aware of that. And so if you can target the right market, if you can identify the right market, okay, and then, okay, you can demonstrate the value in what you do by being knowledgeable and being experienced, I think your staff remain motivated, their energy stays high, and they have that mindset of looking for opportunities rather than the shield up and trying to deflect any pain that might be coming their way. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I mean, we used to say that property is the only property that you can buy with someone else's money, the bank. You pay it off with somebody else's money, the tenant, and you take all the profits. Certainly over here where there's no tax to it. So it absolutely does. But I also think, you know, you look what may happen in all those markets you're talking about, Spencer, the next 3 or 4 years. The safe haven of bricks and mortar, I think, will be very attractive to a lot of investors. So I do see a lot of people coming back into the market, you know, once we're out and about and we're doing viewings again.
Neema, how do you make sure, this is a question from the audience, how do you make sure it's your agency that gets the clients that are currently sitting on the fence? How do you win them?
We are all about building relationships right now. So even if we don't win them now, we're going to win them in the future. So it's keeping in regular contact with them. It's providing them with great opportunities as and when they arise. And that's making sure that we also keep in contact with our sellers to make sure that we're touching base with them on a very, very regular basis to see if there's any movement there and to get it at the right price at the right time. Once you get that, you're always going to win the buyer. That buyer is always going to buy with someone. If they're going to buy, they're going to buy with someone. We make sure it's us by providing them with that ideal opportunity.
Okay, Luke, another question from the audience. Okay, regarding off-plan properties, do buyers expect anything to change in terms of installments and delivery dates?
I think on the installment dates, yeah, I think, you know, there's definitely you know, incentives going out from certain developers at the moment, whether it's a waiving of late payment fees or so. There's definitely things going out there. I think that's the certain developers that are doing that. I'm sure the buyers will have done their due diligence beforehand, you know, with their brokers about which developers they're buying from and their previous experiences, because this isn't just happening in Dubai now. You know, yes, it's a pandemic that we're seeing, but we've had other issues in Dubai where buildings haven't been finished and, you know, scenarios like that. So yeah, there are scenarios out there at the moment, you know, the larger like developers like EMA, you know, I think Mohammed Alabar's come out recently and said, look, there are people still on site. Yes, there are less of them on site, but things are happening. So I'd see a strong kind of strong amount of these off-plan sellers maybe re-liquidating their properties in the future. You're going to see them coming back to the market because they're just going to want to free up some cash, and, you know, they're going to take a hit. So yeah.
Just give me a bit of an insight, Rick, on commercial right now, okay? Do you think there's a bigger impact on commercial properties at the moment, or there will be?
We saw a considerably larger impact on commercial leads for the first 2 weeks when they started to bite. That has recovered a little bit. We've also seen a bit of a shift, as you'd probably expect. Warehousing's now a bit of the de rigueur, everyone's interested. And we did 2 warehouse deals, sold 2 warehouses last week. But what I think you will see after this, a little bit like you'll see in the residential side of things, we're expecting you will see a bit of an influx of people coming back into the commercial rental market off the back of it. Now, some of them, again, they'll be looking to shift the way they're doing business. Some of them will be looking to downsize, of course. But again, there will be movement within that marketplace. But yeah, to answer your initial question, commercial leads certainly took a bigger hit in the first couple of weeks of this than residential did. Starting to recover now, though.
Okay, let's talk about motivation for a minute, because obviously there's the question from the audience here about motivation, but motivation is something that I believe plays a big part in people's success. Whatever job that they do, the better motivated you are, the more energy you're likely to have. Neema, what are you doing right now to motivate your team?
We're having regular Zoom meetings, so we're trying to do that on a daily basis to touch base with the full team as well as individual meetings. I'm having daily calls. I'm also, it's really difficult to continuously motivate someone throughout the day. So we're trying to say, right, create a daily list for yourself, work through that list and give me an update at the end of the day. I'm doing that personally myself. I wake up, I'm showered, I'm ready to go first thing in the morning, but it's making sure that they're also doing the same, because it's very easy to sit there, not shower, stay in your bed, and the day just passes. You can be sitting there watching Netflix. So I think it's just making sure that you're in regular communication with all team members, to making sure that they're, again, the mental stability is there, that they're actually getting up and producing content for themselves to have a list to work through, because if you're not motivated, you're not going to do anything.
It's interesting when you look at how Dubai has developed over the course of the last few years, and everything went from a very analog manual process some years ago. Like literally, you were forever having to get your company stamp out or sign another document, or somebody pop back with another document that needed to go somewhere for a stamp and then come back with another document. But that's changed so much. Do you think we'll get to a stage that we'll be able to finalize the whole process of renting a property without having to go anywhere? Just maybe the Ajari and the fees on your phone and everything else.
100%. If someone wanted to, they could do it right now. However, I think most people do want some sort of human interaction. They want to hear somebody else's feedback. They want different options. And when you're just looking online, you're just looking at online options. But sometimes you want to hear feedback from the actual agent themselves as to why something is a better choice compared to something else. So I don't think an agent will be fully redundant, but I think certain process will certainly be made redundant.
Interesting. There was a post yesterday on LinkedIn that Wissam, the CEO of Goldmark Real Estate, posted. I saw that Rick commented, and I said to Wissam about 18 months ago that I think that virtual tours, people using virtual reality or augmented reality type tours will be tools that people use far more frequently, and viewings will become less and less. And that came from only looking at every other industry and seeing where they were going, but also going back to 2006 myself, buying 4 units in London, all on an email, still never seen them, still never seen the units. They've been rented out ever since I bought them. And so I really do believe that this situation has caused everyone to think a little bit differently about that. And I think sometimes in industry, we kind of hold on to what we know as opposed to fully embrace the future, because sometimes we're a little bit wary of it, a little wary of what the implication it could have on us and our business. And when you know what you know, that's what you know, isn't it? So that's how that behavior carries on. Do you, Luke, do you believe that we're going to get to a point where people are going to be able to comfortably make a decision on viewing and buying a property virtually without having to go and literally stand in that square footage themselves?
They do, right? People do it. We've seen a huge surge in off-plan sales, in Dubai, probably one of the main places in the world where people have been buying from looking through a brochure or a CD or going down to a developer's office and seeing the 3D models. You're going to have those buyers, definitely, Spencer. You're going to have a 20% of the market that will just, take a punt. They're used to buying houses, used to flipping houses, used to probably having multiple properties purchases, sales each year. But I think for, the normal, like we're talking, or Haider was saying earlier, the person that's staying in a property for 4 to 8 years with their children and, husband, wife, whatever, still think they're going to want to sit there. They want that feel. I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and I don't know how they've come up with it, but they're saying in Australia at the moment, it's about 13 seconds from when you enter the door. Yes, I want it, or no, I don't. So it is that feel, isn't it? It is that feel you get about things in life. You get in. Whereas the video tours are great. It's the brokers selling themselves as well as they're walking around, because the brokers that are doing these video tours, the clients are looking at them and they're hearing the broker. It's that kind of pre-qualification. So the broker's selling their own services. So the better the brokerage, if they're walking around saying, okay, well, this is a corner unit on the XYZ floor and it's the one of only 3 on this particular floor, they're selling their own services. So there is a place, yes. Is it going to be the majority? No, not in my opinion. People will still want to touch it, feel it, see it.
Okay, thanks for your opinion on that. Rick, oh, one of the questions come in. Okay, for teams that have never worked virtually or even led a team, how do you expect them to be productive? What can you do?
Sorry, Spencer, you just broke up a little bit.
Sorry, no problem. I mean, for teams that have never worked virtually or even led a team, okay, how do you expect them to be productive? What can you do?
Look, I think there's a lot you can do virtually. I did comment on that little message the other day, and I think there will be business done. I think my gut feeling, like Luke, is that the majority of people who'll be out there doing deals at the moment via virtual tours and such will be people that have to move. So it's more of a sense of they need to get it done rather than that's what they would choose to, the process they would choose to go. But you're absolutely right. You bought 4 properties in London digitally, virtually. We sold a couple of properties last week in the UK digitally, virtually. So there will be those people who will buy, probably investors, people without the emotional attached to what they're buying. You know, a bit like your stocks and shares. I don't think I've ever been shown a share certificate for anything I've ever bought. You know, it's there and it creates an income, and that's what it is. It's an asset. It's an income generating asset, and that's the way you think of it. So for those people, yeah, absolutely. But as Luke said, for people who want to feel it, touch it, live in it, I think they do want to do viewings. So if you're dealing today with the majority of people who want to feel it, touch it, and live it, you can be very productive with those people. You can A, go out there and get listings that they will be able to feel and touch and go and see once we're out of lockdown. And B, you know, as we've said a few times in here already, you can be talking to them and you can be generating relationships with these people for as and when they are ready. So I think a lot of the job at the moment to be productive is speaking to people, speak to anybody you possibly can, and people are receptive to having those calls today, and then identify what sort of camps they fall into, and then make a bit of a plan for the individual that you're speaking to. Are they somebody who will buy a property offline either here or elsewhere, or is it somebody who, you know, I'm going to keep on the burner until times are a little bit more relaxed in terms of our movements, and we'll do some business with them then. So, I mean, and to answer the question, sort of, if you've never done it before, well, frankly, guys, no one on this call has ever lived through this experience before. So we all have to be able to adjust and adapt and roll with it, and make the most of the situation that you ever find yourself in. So I would never think that just because you've never done something before, never experienced something before, you should down tools. You just need to, you know, particularly if you're in a leadership position, this is a time where the leaders will earn their crust, you know, and they need to find a way through.
Look, I completely agree with that. Leaders will right now. I remember in 2008 when the financial crisis came, Lehman Brothers went, Merrill's went, and they said this is unprecedented. It's never happened before. This is very scary times. When we had 9/11, when we had the 2001 internet bubble, when we had Black Monday in October 1987. Every time these things have happened, it's been the worst thing ever. It's unprecedented. It's never happened before, and we always recover. That's got down a lot to do with a word that we'd use in the UK, the grit and determination, okay, of the common man to pick themselves up. You know, if we've gone through world wars and we've been able to dust ourselves down and rebuild as all of these countries did back then for sure, okay, we can get through this and we can start looking further. A few more questions before we finish. Okay, one from Bayut. Since some users reach out saying they're looking for agents, but the agent community has not been as responsive with a stay-at-home campaign in place. What would you say to such users and agents since the lockdown clearly states curfew times? Oh, okay, this question was coming into curfew times, people moving bad before, so this was beforehand. Okay, scrap that question. Okay, next question that we've got is, do we expect a drop in property prices because of less demand at the moment? And do we expect otherwise after the pandemic is over? So do we expect a drop in property prices because of less demand at the moment, and do we expect otherwise after? Now, Luke, I think you've touched on that already, because this is my opinion, and you can share with me yours. If you give me your opinion on this, I believe if you compare the UK market, so London, Paris, New York, Tokyo, Hong Kong, Singapore, as major cities around the world, Sydney as well, we have a relatively high price per square metre or per square foot. Even that London has come down in recent time, it's still relatively high. If you compare that to the prices in Dubai in particular, the prices have been coming down for some time. And so in terms of price per square metre, it actually represents really good value, period. Okay, for a first world city, considering the transport hubs, the hub that this place is, geographical location, etc. So I can't see the markets moving much further down. What I can see is anyone that wants to buy real estate, considering places that are expensive, like a London and New York, and maybe thinking twice about somewhere like that. And if they're looking to invest for a 5, 7, 10-year period, that this would be a really smart place to invest. Let's start with Luke. You answer the question first. What do you think?
Yeah, well, like I said before, I think prices have got down over the last decade. Prices have got down to pretty much the lowest level, other than the 2008 scenario. So I personally don't see a huge drop off, Spencer. I was saying, going back in January, February, I actually thought prices in certain communities were bouncing back. We actually had buyers prepared to pay more for them than they were on the market at. So I was seeing it was going up. As I say, certain communities. I'm not saying to buy. Yeah, definitely. So I see. Yeah, there'll be a correction. We have taken consideration unemployment. Well, we obviously got Expo to now look forward to in the future. A lot of visitors coming in. I just from conversations I have with sellers, I don't see there's going to be that much movement, really. You're going to have the ones that really, really want to sell. So, and that's in any market. Correction, 5% maybe, not much. Can't see any more than that.
Rick?
Can prices go down further? Yes, is the answer to that, if the demand isn't there. I think you will have distressed sellers at the moment who've got a very compelling reason to sell, who will be accepting of a bit of a haircut on what they're looking for at the moment. But I tend to think that I believe this will be relatively short and painful in terms of a market shock. When you have a very long lead into a market, it can be quite cancerous to the mindset. People have a long time to get used to something, and then it can take a long time for them to recover, dust that off. We've actually come into this incredibly quickly, haven't we? From what was quite a bullish market 2 months ago, a month and a half ago, quite a positive market. As Luke was saying, we were seeing sealed bids, we were seeing prices going over asking price. Very, very quickly that's changed. Now, I believe that when we come out of it, as we've said, that there will be this desire to get the wheel going. It might take a little bit of time, but that desire to get the wheel going will seep into all industries in all markets. And I do suspect that we will see prices hold relatively firm on the whole. That doesn't mean that there won't be some bargains to be had out there, and there will be certainly buyers, little sharks out there at the moment, looking to snap them up, and there will be sellers, as we say, that have to sell. And if you have to sell in this next couple of weeks while there's a lockdown, you're going to take a haircut on it.
Okay, understood. Neema?
Absolutely. I think, look, the prices will come down further, but I think it's the same as it's always been. The sellers that really need to sell, they will drop their prices and take a haircut, like Rick said. But you've also got a lot of sellers who actually put their properties on the market, but who genuinely have no interest in selling unless it's at an unreasonable price. Those prices won't change.
Okay.
I think the bank stepping in, giving people relief over the next 3 to 6 months will play quite a big impact into this, because there'll be less people forced from a mortgage point of view to liquidate what they've got. And I think that will have an impact in holding prices a little bit further.
Okay. And final thoughts, everybody. Luke, if you want to wrap this up with your final thoughts, what do you think?
Look, I just think that there has to be positivity from the viewer's point of view. We're going out to brokers, we're going out to brokerages. We have to have positivity out there. We need to be sharing positive vibes. Let's not go onto our Instagram channels or Facebook and start posting empty streets and saying there's no one around. We have to give out these positive vibes. Try and limit your daily intake of the news, I think is a good bit of advice that I've seen. You know, I actually have heard from someone that only Googles positive news about coronavirus. They don't do anything else. So without sounding insensitive to the situation, I don't really care if the Dow Jones has gone down or the FTSE this, or, you know, someone's, you know, passed away and over there. Of course, if you've got family in that country, yes, but try and, you know, promote yourself, as I said, to realize that this is a great training opportunity. There are lots of brokers out there that were so busy, or felt they were so busy previously. I can't do this, I can't do that. This is now the perfect time. So when Rick was talking about earlier about the kind of the yoga sessions and, you know, the companies coming forward and trying to help and be that kind of shoulder to cry on if someone needs it, you also, from a broker's point of view, you've got to take some action yourself. You've got to eat well, you've got to sleep well, you've got to be drinking plenty of water. You haven't got to be going up to Barracuda and filling up your shopping trolley full of alcohol. You know, there's no point in staying watching Netflix till 4 o'clock in the morning and then not hitting the phone the next morning. You need to have clear plans and structures in place and be committed to do it. Because there's no one, you know, we haven't got CCTV in everyone's house and we're going to know whether they didn't get when their alarm went off at 6 o'clock in the morning or they did. So there has to be that ability inside yourself. And that's where I feel you'll find that the brokers will widen, the good agents will increase their market share. Because now they're having engaging conversations daily, and they know when they put their head on the pillow at night, they couldn't do any more. You know, the ball is in our court. I can't do any more. I've spoke to 20 buyers, 30 buyers, 20 sellers, 30 sellers, whatever it may be. So as long as you can go to bed every day and understand that you've done everything that you possibly can, you can't do any more. So, you know, we're all as leaders or CEOs, directors, what have you, we want the best. We want the best for our staff. We want the best for the company. We want the best for the city. We want to continue and prosper. We will get over this, but let's try and stay away from the negativity, because there's so much of it out there. You don't need to look that too hard to find it. But yeah, my bit would just be try and cut the social as limited as much as possible. Once a day, look at the news. That first kind of 5 minutes, then get out, pull the parachute and jump out.
All right, good stuff. Neema, final thoughts?
For me, look, I was here in 2008, and it was pretty bad. I don't know how many of the viewers were here at that time, but it was super bad. So I think, look, we're all going to come out of this, but for me, it's staying motivated every day, getting up, getting ready in the morning, having your action plan in place, and analysing yourself. Like Luke said, at the end of the day, have you done everything that you could possibly do to generate business, stay positive, stay active, and just stay motivated on a daily basis?
Okay, good. And Rick?
I suppose last thoughts are, you know, these are challenging times, and we've got responsibility to ourselves, and the leaders have got responsibility to their companies. Are supposed to do two things. Firstly, the most important thing is to survive. You know, and there are practical steps that we should all be taking, looking at our expenditure, looking at what relief we can get from banks or mortgages and all those sort of things. And you know, and that's you know, everybody should be doing that at this time. There will be consolidation in the markets. Not every company, I don't think, will get through this, but you should take those practical steps. And then the second thing is, you know, you've got a responsibility to think, not only am I going to survive this, but I'm actually going to thrive through this. And I'm going to thrive at the back end of this, because Luke's right, this will come to an end. In the not too distant future, most brokers on this call will be somewhere in Pier 7 on a Thursday evening, reminiscing about the time that we all went into lockdown. Yeah, and the fun times will roll again. But how are you going to get through this stronger? I think, you know, as Luke and Neema and you said, Spencer, probably the most important thing is your mindset. We talk about positivity. I think we will all go through ebbs and flows and peaks and troughs as the longer this goes on for. The first week was that sort of, you know, Dunkirk spirit, and we're all in this together. And second week, it gets a little bit harder. And, you know, third week, probably my message is, you know, don't feel sorry for yourself, because I think it creeps in. You know, the longer this goes on for, it'll start to creep in. And I think keeping a strong mindset is obviously important. Make sure you're working. We've discussed this a lot. You know, make sure you're being productive. Being productive at home, making 12 hours of phone calls is probably not necessarily doable. So intersperse it with other things that are keeping your mindset well. And then the last thing is try and look for those silver linings in this situation, be it more time with your family, be it more opportunities to reach out to those friends you've not spoken for, be it an opportunity to read a book and learn something and get another skill in your locker. But I think there's a lot of positivity. Yeah, I think we must not underestimate the challenges, because if you underestimate the challenge, you don't then plan for them and come out stronger. But I think a lot of people on this call, if they're taking the time to come on these calls and taking the time to put things in place, will come out of this.
Okay, good, excellent stuff. So I just want to say a big thank you to everyone that's tuned in today to listen to this webinar. Thank you for your questions. We really appreciated the fact that you've thrown some at us, and the guys have clearly enjoyed answering them. Just want to say also a big thank you to you, Neema. Thank you for coming on, join us today. I know that being on camera doing this kind of stuff isn't your favourite thing to do, so I really appreciate you doing it. Okay.
You're welcome.
Luke, okay, thank you so much again for coming today. For Rick, coming to join us and sharing us your thoughts. You guys are experts in the business. You've been around a long time, and we really appreciate the value that you bring. And lastly, a big thanks to Haider for coming to join us, and also for Bayut for putting this type of webinar sessions on and this series on, so that we can understand better what's happening in the market, understand better what to do, what steps to take, and make sure that we look forward, whether it would be with the Dunkirk fighting spirit, okay, or just getting our sleeves rolled up and getting stuck in back again, and realizing this is an industry that you can all be very proud of, and you'll come out of these tough times and you'll go into better ones fairly soon. Well, thanks very much indeed for joining us, guys. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Spence.
Thank you. Thank you.